I have a question.
Yep.
I just got back from Tapachula, Chiapas, which is borders with Guatemala. I'm not sure if any of you have visited that area, but the border is completely wide open. I mean, completely wide open. Everything is crossing back and forth, drugs, illegals. And if you're keeping up with the news in Tapachula, there's at least 10,000 migrants that are waiting to make their journey up to our border. So my question is there anything being done to put pressure on AMLO, Manuel Lopez Obrador, Mexico's president? I know President Trump put pressure on him and action was being done. Is there anything that's going to happen now with this administration and putting pressure on Mexico to take some action?
The short answer is you said it. There was when President Trump was in office. Now there is not pressure being put on Mexico, and we see that right now with the MPP, right? You've got the federal court because Texas, remember, Texas sued, forced the question on the migrant protection protocols and enforcing those laws requiring return to Mexico. And guess what? A federal judge said, hey, you guys need to actually step up. And what's happened? The administration's ignoring it. They're basically giving lip service to it, saying, oh yeah, we're doing that. But meanwhile, putting out memoranda saying they want to stop doing return to Mexico, so it's not happening. And they're not doing anything to put any pressure on Mexico in any significant way, and they ought to be doing that. But that's the reality of what this administration compared to the previous administration. Andy or Michael?
Let me save the borders are Kamala Harris some trouble. We cannot fix the problems in every other country. We cannot take away or eliminate the problems that they have that make them have a desire to come to the greatest country in the history of the world. What we can do is enforce the policies and the laws that we already have that were already being done. If Biden would have just stayed in his Rehoboth Beach basement in Delaware and never done anything, we would have a secure border, largely secure, that was left to him by the Trump administration. We've got to eliminate the incentive, eliminate the reward, let them know they will be turned back at the border and stay in their own home country.
If I could just very briefly add on that real quick, because you asked earlier what can be done or what could not be done. He's right. If Biden had stayed in his basement, we wouldn't have this problem. There were three big pieces, and my former Trump administration colleague Russ is here. There were three big pieces that allowed us to truly secure the border. Two we've talked about a lot. One is the wall. I mean, look at this Trump wall right here. But you got cameras 5 feet that way. It's a gaping hole where he stopped construction. The other was Remain in Mexico that Congressman Roy just talked about that the courts are trying to force him to do, but Biden is barely compliant. The other big piece was the Title 42 order, though, that was put in by the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC, because we knew then it was the worst possible time to have our entire southern border open to hundreds of thousands of COVID-positive illegals coming across. The Biden administration, to this day, though, and reporters need to ask them this question, they will pretend they are still following the Title 42 order. I can tell you, as the former chief of staff of HHS, they are lying to you when they say that. They are lying to you. They have gone through, first of all, in violation of federal law, they just disregarded a duly put in place order of the CDC the day they took office, or 1 or 2 weeks in. Now they kind of papered it over with. They're basically saying if you are under 18 years of age, we are not going to apply Title 42 to you at all. And we just heard from the CBP down here that it's being so shredded, it's almost not even providing enough value to barely make any difference down here anymore. But those are the three big pieces, and systematically the Biden administration has gone through trashing everyone.
Let me add one point on Title 42. We put out a discharge petition, and many of us got on board last spring, right? And a discharge petition is how you force action in the House of Representatives and force a vote on the floor. Right now, there are 195 signatures on a discharge petition. We need 218 to require Title 42 to continue to be used statutorily. We have 0 Democrats on that, but I'd like to note that means there are 17 Republicans who haven't signed that discharge petition, and I want the press to go ask each and every one of them why not. And we have a discharge petition on migrant protection protocols. Andy, what are those signatures up to? Mid 100s?
Yeah, not even mid 100s.
And so where are the Republicans on that to force it vote and to force a decision with the discharge petition? You know, this is a two-way street. Our Democrat friends don't give a rip about the border. But for too long, I listened to Republicans saying that a fence is a 19th century solution to a 21st century problem. Well, it's not. It works when it's put up and put in place. And we need Republicans to stand up and do their part in Congress, too.
Go ahead.
One of the big things that President Trump did that does get overlooked is he simply enforced the law that already exists. And that's what we don't see coming out from this administration. We see a blatant disregard for the law that is already on the books. And so, yes, we funded infrastructure along the border. We are continuing to bring to light what's going on here, but the Biden administration is flaunting the law, and they're doing so to aid and abet the cartels who have complete control of the southern border. And so right now, the #1 killer in our nation is fentanyl, coming from China through Mexico to kill our young people in our country, and this administration just continues to turn its back. And so we need to be treating these cartels on the other side of the border as if they were any other terrorist organization intent for harm on the United States on the other side of the border. And until we have that kind of response from a federal level, we are going to continue to see cartels take advantage of our communities to put people in sex trafficking and to kill our young people. And now they're beginning to gain a foothold in communities throughout the United States. And so we saw a video recently of people being shipped into communities in the dead of night. And so for an administration who says unity and we're going to be the most transparent, they are flat out lying and they are not enforcing the law.
I know we're gonna need to wrap.
Let me just get two quick points. When you talk about fencing, even some of our colleagues still don't buy into the fencing, and yet just all of us are aware of it. For the State of the Union speech, they're going to throw a fence up around the Capitol complex again because they don't work. Fences don't work. And then the second point is there are leverage points that we have with Mexico that would inspire President AMLO to basically start reinvigorate the remaining Mexico policy. But the underlying root cause for that failure is the Biden administration does not want to reinstitute the MPP. In fact, they have continued to appeal it every time they've lost, and they're going to continue to appeal it until they can just throw it away, just leverage it right out of there. And I'll just tell you, talk to these men and women at Border Patrol, Title 42, MPP, and defense, those are really the key things that would help us bring this up.
So I know we're going to wrap. I want to give a final word to my friend Louie Gohmert. There's been no greater warrior over his entire career in defense of the border, in defense of law enforcement. Former federal judge, former state judge, someone for whom I have great respect, and glad to have him on this trip with us.
Chip, thanks for organizing this. Just want to go back to your original question about what pressure is there on the Mexican government. There's only one source of pressure on the Mexican government, and that is the drug cartels. The terrorist organizations are the ones that are putting pressure on the Mexican government, and the Biden administration is not protecting America. He's not keeping his oath. It's time that the rest of us stepped up. We got to impeach the people that aren't doing their jobs, and then we'll see the right kind of pressure come on the Mexican government.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, guys.